Welcome back to America Right Now. In our Taking Back Our Schools segment this week, critical race theory, a newfound obsession on the left that is being forced into school curriculums from coast to coast. This week, two of the nation's largest teachers' unions vowed to support the controversial curriculum and even target parents who stand against its inclusion in our schools. Christopher Rufo is a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. He is a leading analyst on this issue and has helped catalyze a national movement against it, and he joins us now. Chris, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So let's start off with the basics for our audience, since they're hearing so much about this. Define critical race theory for us, its origins and its aims.
Absolutely. Critical race theory is an academic discipline that maintains that the United States was founded on white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalist exploitation. And most importantly, that those forces are still at the root of our society. They argue that the United States has laws and constitutional principles such as freedom and equality. But in reality, those are mere smoke screens or camouflages for continued white supremacist dominance. And some of the key principles advanced by critical race theorists include that the United States is irredeemably racist, that it can never overcome its history of racism, that all white people inherently in their identity, in their whiteness, are racist, and that they also oppose equality under the law. They believe in so-called anti-racist discrimination, separating the country into competing racial groups, and treating them differently on the basis of skin color.
Christopher, there is some discussion as to whether or not this actually finds its origins in Marxism and Marxist ideology, and there is debate on that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's really not much of a debate. It's almost kind of a fake or pseudo debate. Critical race theory is absolutely derived from Marxism. It comes from critical theory, which is also known as critical Marxism, post-Marxism, Western Marxism. I mean, it's very clear once you investigate the academic literature, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can actually ask the critical race theorists themselves. One of the founders of the discipline, Richard Delgado, admitted in an interview that when they had this first conference back in the late 1980s, it was, quote, a bunch of Marxists that were starting to invent critical race theory. The evidence is there. The paper trail is there. They're now backing away from it. They're running away as fast as they can. But we have the receipts. They're absolutely neo-Marxists in their ideologies. They actually advocate for the abolition of capitalism. They advocate for a collectivist economic system, which, since the time of Karl Marx 150 odd years ago, has been known as Marxism.
Chris, the education establishment is starting to take a lot of heat, thanks in part to your work and the work of a lot of parents who are standing up. But they, General Milley, we saw his reaction on Capitol Hill a couple of weeks ago, liberal commentators, they're saying, hey, this CRT thing, it's really no big deal. It's really about just accurate depictions and discussions of American history and society. Donna Brazile, the former DNC chair, wrote in the Wall Street Journal last week that Republicans who oppose this want to, quote, cancel the horrors of slavery. How do you respond to those arguments?
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd, right? You can teach about the history of slavery, segregation, and racism in the United States, which is absolutely a real fact, without critical race theory. That's not what distinguishes critical race theory. In fact, I had a public school education back in the 1980s and 1990s. I learned all about some of the horrors and abuses in American history. But critical race theory does something very differently. It not only seeks to teach history, it seeks to teach history through the lens of a Marxist ideology, separating the world into oppressor and oppressed. And in classrooms, I've reported on this extensively, they teach that white children, by virtue of their whiteness, are inherently oppressors. They force children of all racial groups to deconstruct their racial identities in front of teachers, in front of their classroom, in front of their classmates, and then separate into oppressor and oppressed. They're really not teaching history. They're teaching inaccurate history, false history, revisionist history. But that's really a cover for what they're really doing, which is separating children by race, pitting them against one another as oppressor and oppressed, privileged and oppressed, and then seeking to overthrow through moral, economic, and political revolution the very founding constitutional principles of our country. They oppose the First Amendment right to free speech. They oppose the 14th Amendment right to equal protection. And they oppose the system of free enterprise that that has enabled a great prosperity in our country.
Yeah, I learned about the evils of slavery when I was in school. I also was taught that we judge people based on character, not skin color. But we have seen, Chris, some concerns from parents who say that slavery and incidents like the Tulsa riots, this is something that popped up a few weeks ago, it was revealed had not been taught in many of those schools or had been minimized in schools. So where's the balance? Why does the left feel like they need to go this far with sort of rewriting America's history? What should be the balance?
Yeah, I mean, again, I learned all about slavery. I learned about the Tulsa riots. I learned about the Trail of Tears. I learned about segregation. I mean, I think the American public school curriculum, if you look at it at the district level, at the state level, does in general a very good job at addressing historical injustices. But these are really a kind of premise and conclusion problem. I agree, and you agree, and we all agree that there is this history that we should look at it. We should explore the bad and the good in our society, always towards improving and moving towards those universal ideals of freedom and equality. Mm-hmm. But critical race theorists don't want to do that. They want to say that the United States is inherently and irredeemably racist, that it's just as racist today in 2021 as it was in 1921 or 1821. They see the world through this prism of fatalistic and cynical pessimism, where I think we should be filling our kids with optimism, being honest about the historical injustices in our past, but always promoting the idea that you have agency, that the United States is a story of redemption, progress, prosperity, and opportunity. We should be lifting up our kids, not squashing them under the boot of a neo-Marxist ideology that seeks to fill people with pessimism and despair.
All right, Christopher Rufo, I want to have you back to talk about what's going on with these woke corporations. And I got to tell you, as a parent and as an American, thank you so much for what you're doing. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.